Hello, good morning, and welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Chamberlain. What's up?
I'm Ayo Makinde. Good morning and welcome to the program today.
Well, yeah, we're picking up on this. I don't know who hasn't perhaps had cause to speak about this in one forum or the other. It's got to do with this compulsory treatment and care for victims of Gunshot Act of 2017, which the Senate is amending, as it were. Because, look, having gone through, there are several cases, as a matter of fact, about persons who sustain gunshot wounds for one reason or the other. They rush to the hospitals tell them, well, we can't treat you unless there is a police report. And that has happened for decades. So, but it turns out that in 2016, we do remember that the Minister of Health, the then Minister of Health, Professor Isaac Adewale, did say this kind of things, that look, hospitals, they have to accept and treat patients of gunshot wounds without asking for money first. He says, life is more important than money. Those were his exact words. And I do remember he was on the program, at the time, and we also did ask him that particular question. He says, no, they are supposed to treat before asking for any such thing. And then in 2017, the then Commissioner of Police, Imoyemi Edgal, did read the Riot Act to hospitals, reminding them that, look, anyone who is reported or found to have contravened that act of 2017 will be liable. I think it said that there's a penalty of 5 years jail term. That much was also said. And, well, some doctors, reading the accounts, they'd say, look, the challenge with that is some of them who spoke, said that they had used their discretion to treat patients in such category only for them to be subjected to very tough circumstances by the same police. But is that tenable as an excuse? Because the thing is, the law is there. If they breach that part of the law, they can be liable. Hospitals. And they also spoke about the same law being applicable to people who, when you get to the hospital, they're asking you to deposit money first before they attend to you. I don't know which hospitals or who hasn't experienced that kind of scenario in this climate, So it's something that I think the CP then described it as that it's criminal, it's inexcusable, it's callous for them to do this kind of thing. So I think it's just about time where people will test the law. But we should also add that the Senate is amending this act to include a medical assistance emergency fund. So they're saying, whether you deposit that money, you have to treat. So now, this part is where that also applies.
You see, that last part that you talked about is what where I was playing in my head, that there needs to be balance. Because a good number of the hospitals are private businesses. And so when we say treat before, you ask for money or ask for a police report, let's start with the money part. The thing playing in the heads of many of them is, okay, so what happens if this fellow cannot pay, given the poverty figures, given the economic situation of many people? Lives are important, no doubt. But then there needs to be a kind of balance to it, just a consideration. Because, you would know, of course, a number of people will tell you, how much it costs, for instance, to put someone on respiratory system on a particular day. A good number of hospitals will charge something in the region of 50,000 naira per day just for someone to stay alive. But you see, when you even talk about the other issues, you quoted some historical statements that have been made just this year, January.
Yeah.
On our program Newsnight here, the IGP at the time, Mohammed Adamu, said, policemen ought to treat before, I beg your pardon, hospitals ought to treat before asking for a police report. Treat first. Because if the person dies, it's on you. That's pretty much what he was saying, just, the beginning of this year. That perhaps underscores what the senator said, Senator Tinubu said, when she said, it's a misunderstanding of the Robbery and Firearms Act when they said that you need to get a police report before you treat. So hopefully there will be a marriage between the Robbery and Firearms Act and this, new regulation that this new law.
Where's the misunderstanding? Because the police had said this time and again, the Minister of Health, that's government, telling the hospitals, no, this is the way it should be. The police telling them, this is the way it should be. So if anyone is found to have contravened this, patients need to test the laws.
But it's the same police that said doctors should treat victims of gunshot wounds first before asking for any police report. Just this year, just January this year. So perhaps there is just that understanding that people need to bring out. I mean, the system, the police themselves need to bring out from time to time to let people know exactly what the issues are. Because at the end of the day, if the person that you are supposed to treat dies, there is nothing. I mean, you listen to. You will listen to the argument of the senator and to also understand some of the issues that have been raised, so that we know that exactly what the issues are.
And you know what some of the hospitals do now, because I mean, who are out there, rush reporters, gleaning information every now and then, is when they see that if a patient is brought in, if they look at the circumstance and see that, well, chances are that may not make it. So if that money is not deposited in good time, they then refer the patient to another hospital. Then that hospital looks at it, sees the same circumstance, refer. So, and then some of them, when the patient is about to die, then they ask, okay, deposit this kind of money, then the patient eventually gives up. So we've seen this kind of scenarios time and again.
You are spot on, Chamberlain. Well, you're spot on, especially about as I said, they are private businesses. Many people do not go to general public hospitals most of the time for one reason. They look at the lethargic response of many of the practitioners in the hospitals. A number of people will tell you what their experiences have been or are when they go to get treatment. Even outpatients will tell you the kind of things that they encounter, how much more emergencies. So if the fund that you talked about is something that is initiated and is established, and private hospitals are educated about how they can approach it, how they can access it, perhaps that will also help. But more importantly, is that communication between the hospitals and the police about the law. The word is out. Well, putting the law to work. And that's another kind of
But they should remember, ignorance of the law is not an excuse.
Which is where the problem is.
It's not an excuse.
Which is where the problem is. So if people do not know that, we have a plethora of laws in this country that you don't even know that you are guilty of any law.
This is their profession.
Until you are approved.
So they should. This will be elementary to hospitals, I imagine.
Well, yeah, that's the point. I agree with you. But what if they don't know? How many people?
It's not an excuse.
I know.
But
it will just be like almost like setting them up.
Well, yeah, I don't know who will say they don't know, because I just don't know who will be. Look, there's another chapter that we can't even broach on this subject, on this particular session. The way patients are attended to by either the nurses, the doctors, the medical workers. Oh boy,
that's what I referenced about the attitude, what people experience for which reason they don't go to public hospitals.
The Medical and Dental Council people need to know that they are there for a purpose. It's to stamp out activities and measures such as this one. But this amendment now, which the bill has passed second reading, we understand, and so there's also that sanction. They're going to prescribe sanctions to hospitals and medical centers that refuse to treat victims of gunshot wounds. I wonder who will say they don't know after this happens.
After this happens. As you said, there is no excuse. You breach the law, you get reprimanded for it. But that communication ought to be, okay, the chief medical officer may know, the doctor may know. What if the emergency?
Let's play this such that somebody who sees it could tell somebody else. So have a look.
The tale of victims of gunshot wounds denied treatment in hospitals in Nigeria are many. This year, late music producer Ebenezer Ayeni and systems engineer David Nketim Rex were shot by armed robbers in separate incidents in Lagos and Ibadan, but were both denied treatment in hospitals because of the absence of police reports. This is despite a law to ensure the compulsory treatment and care for victims of gunshots. A federal lawmaker from Lagos is amending the Compulsory Treatment and Care for Victims of Gunshots Act 2017 to expand the scope of the legislation.
The Compulsory Treatment and Care for Victims of Gunshot Act 2017 attempts to enforce treatment of victims of gunshot injury who prior to its enactment were being refused treatment by hospitals as a result of misinterpretation of Section 4 of the Robbery and Firearms Special Provision.
But the Deputy Senate President wants the proposed amendment to include penalties for hospitals who refuse to treat victims of gunshot wounds.
Every hospital, public or private, shall receive for treatment. Shall. The legal obligation is already mandatory, it's already created. With or without police clearance, with or without monetary deposit, persons with gunshot wounds and criminalizes contravention. It does criminalize contravention. What is the punishment? What is the penalty?
Oh yeah, we apologize for the abrupt end of that particular speech ban, so but we'll look into that and correct it. But let's take you through some of the dailies now. We'll start with New Telegraph today. Anambra poll. INEC convenes emergency security meeting. There's a big one on the front page of New Telegraph. Says attacks challenge to election security. Goal is to stop scheduled poll. It's dangerous for democracy, says NSA. Stop Anambra killings. Now, reps tell FG IGP redeploys Anambra CP. So, you know, at the end of the day, I think there have been several examples too, how one or two things was done to ensure that elections hold. It's not just now, there's a historical precedent to this kind of matter, so this will not be an exception. So there are officials and persons who have been saddled with the responsibility to ensure that elections hold, and they need to come through.
Then there is also that need to sustain the campaign of tolerance and voter education with the people who are going to do the voting, because ultimately what you're talking about here now concerns them.
Yeah.
If people don't feel safe, they will not come out to vote. And unfortunately, the people who are also at the forefront of this melee, they are also part of the people who are supposed to vote.
Well, these other two stories, it will raise more concerns. Let me perhaps, I don't know which one. Okay, I'll go with the one just above this lead story. Gas, intrigues, insecurity, stall FG's $2.8 billion pipelines project. It's $2.8 billion. Leaders fear further exposures, carry confident on delivery. So, you just hope. Well, this other matter within the AFCC, we'll try and see if another paper highlights it. It also has to do with some huge amount of money, which is not going down well. That's New Telegraph this morning, though.
Well, the Vanguard newspaper has this one. Southeast killings. There are over 30 separatist groups in the Southeast. Stories on page 5. You must have listened to it yesterday on Channels Television as well. Senator Abaribe tells FG, says, you can crush agitators, not ideology. Abaribe spoke fact. Many churches, groups are now agitating, says Ohaneze. Get Abaribe to identify the groups, ACF tells security agencies. Some agitators no longer interested in Nigeria, say Okorie. Meeting of ethnic nationalities needed, Afenifere says. Abaribe spoke the truth. MBF can. Unknown gunmen kill 2, injure others in Enugu. INEC raises alarm over insecurity in Anambra. That's been referenced in the previous paper. And right under the picture you see there, no more sit at home in Southeast. Governors, Igbo leaders vow. That story is on page 13 of the paper this morning. So many other issues you may want to refer to on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. Sports on the back page, World Cup qualifiers. Eagles train with full squad ready to feast on CAR. The details are on the inside pages. and so many others to choose from.
Okay. I'm just there are lots of reactions coming through about that gunshot wounds matter. So I think we should just keep the comments coming through so that it will serve. There's an interesting one which we'll see soon. Take a look at Daily Times. Southeast governors move to end IPOB's sit-at-home order. That's the Daily Times. Yep, there you go. The first of the rider here reads, condemns spate of killings in region, say Ibubagu regional security outfit to take root before end of 2021. So there you go, some of the highlights of that meeting, which we'll also focus on this morning, by the way, so you might want to just keep it locked here. That's Daily Times.
Nigeria News Direct. Repositioning education. FG reintroduces bursary, approves 75,000 naira stipend for undergraduates to raise teachers' retirement age to 65 years, seeks automatic employment for education students. The story is on page 23. Well, it was World Teachers' Day yesterday, so what do you remember of your teacher? So many other issues hugging the headlines on the front page of the Nigerian News Direct this morning.
Okay, take a look at Nigerian Tribune. Undergraduates studying education to get 75,000 naira per semester. Ascribed to FG. There you go. So you see some of the writers there.
The Guardian newspaper has this one that may not be very, well, that's it. Not very pleasing, is it? Used vehicles prices soar over freight, clearing charges, FX. All of that on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Nigeria spends 601.51 billion naira on importation of vehicles in what? The first half of 2021. So in the first 6 months of this year, we spent so much. Freight rate high because shipping lines, airlines charge for import, export on single trip. And clearing of vehicles in Nigeria extremely expensive. And guess what? Cheap in Ghana, Benin, Togo. Does that explain anything? Find the details on the front page. Continues on page 2. PIA adjustments raise 2022 budget to 16.4 trillion naira. Wow. Wow. Well, that's what you have there. Fresh concerns constrain implementation of PIA. Nigeria's direct funding of oil exploration, pure madness, says ex-NACC boss. Oil minister seeks urgent actions on litigations to avert divestment by IOCs. All of that packed on the front page of the Guardian newspaper.
Okay. Leadership is next. Senate bends rules to allow PMB present 2022 budget tomorrow. So, some developments coming through there from the Senate. I think he had already written them, so there you go. President returns MTEF to NAS for amendments. That's what I was talking about. Raises appropriation from 13.98 trillion naira to 16.45 trillion naira. INEC to get additional 100 billion naira for 2023 elections. Wow. We've spent a lot on elections. Nasani, 54 billion naira. Poverty reduction, 510 billion naira. And then you have police operations, 50 billion naira. Health workers, 50 billion naira.
That's in the budget. How much is 50 billion naira going to do for the police? 200 million people? Less than 500,000 policemen?
No, don't forget the funds that had already been
budgeted
for the police before this one. So it's been going on for a while. So, but who knows? So if we spend this amount of money on elections, why wouldn't they then, well, different kettle of fish.
Well, certainly something to explore.
That transmission and all of those things make it a lot easier. So if we're spending so much to elect our leaders, we had better elect the right ones.
But have we been justifying our investments over the years?
Well, if you haven't been, then do SWOT analysis and then know the next steps to take. That's what any system.
Well, I guess that SWOT analysis should be done by the National Assembly, right? Don't answer the question. Daily Trust newspaper has this one. Corruption leaks. Pressure mounts on
trying
Buhari.
to guide me.
Wait, I'm just taking the headlines. Corruption leaks. Pressure mounts on Buhari to probe Bagudu, Obi, others. The story is on page 5. CSOs, lawyers demand special panel. Reach out to EFCC Justice Ministry. Presidency is saying that one. We're studying reports. ICPC, CCB, EFCC, silent. Okay, no, that's not the thing. We're studying reports. ICPC, CCB, EFCC, silent. Law should take its course. APC and PDP, mum. That's what you have on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper today. There's so many others, so many other things you'll find on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
Oh, okay. We'll go as well take Daily Independent and see how, they're talking about elections. Anambra Goba election under threat. INEC. There you go. Well, we have the police there, so the police should arrest the threat or deal with the threat. And then you see some of the riders here today on the front page of the same Daily Independent, the first of which reads, security agencies will secure lives, property, NSA assures. So that threat from this will be addressed. IGP orders posting of Echeng as new commissioner of police. So measures being taken there. Deploys police special forces to bolster operations, restore peace. So measures are being taken to ensure that no one puts the election at risk. And then just beneath that list story, Buhari jerks up 2022 budget from 13.98 trillion to 16.45 trillion naira. Presents it to National Assembly tomorrow. INEC gets additional 100 billion naira for 2023 polls. Wow. So, what?
How much is the police getting to protect lives and property? Because unless we have security, will we be able to justify INEC spending? Why are you looking at me like that?
I'm listening.
It's just...
People listen differently, don't they? They have a right to listen differently.
How much is the police getting? How many personnel are being recruited? Well, we hear of some recruitments here and there, but...
Yeah, as said by the president on the Independence Day
as said by
speech.
The president, but are they going to be up to 500,000 before the 2023 elections?
Well, he said it was incremental. So they're plugging the holes. The police, the army, that he's directed recruitment in those areas.
Because
the funds, special funds to ensure these things, according to the speech.
Yeah, we know that, for instance, INEC is saying the Guba election in Anambra is under threat for only one reason, and that is the reason of security.
No, but if you look at the riders, they've allayed those fears.
Things are being done incrementally, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what came to my mind when you read that one the other time is, so how are we instilling hope in people and confidence in people that they will that they can come out and be safe? Remember that every time there's been a call for sit at home, the people stayed at home.
That we'll find out in the course of the programming if the headlines haven't explained that much. So don't go away.
The recent arrests of Nnamdi Kanu and Sunday Adeyemo and the ongoing investigations being conducted have revealed certain high-profile financiers behind these individuals. We are vigorously pursuing these financiers, including one identified as a serving member of the National Assembly. Fellow Nigerians, this is a clear example of how people abandon their national leadership positions for their selfish gains. Instead of reaching unity, They are funding and misleading our youth to conduct criminal acts that sometimes lead to unfortunate and unnecessary loss of lives and property. As the so-called leaders ran abroad to hide, our innocent youth are misled and left in the streets to fight for their senseless and destructive causes. Government will continue with greater level of people's participation and in collaboration with our international partners to improve the security architecture, reduce enabling environment for criminality to thrive, and eliminate opportunities for terrorism financing.
This will underline the determination of the government to combat the wave of criminality and murders conducted by bandits all over the country. The declaration of bandits as terrorists can be done through a prescription order. That will serve as added impetus for our brave security personnel to redouble their efforts at dealing with this menace. Such declaration, Mr. Speaker, when given the force of law, will renew the vigor of our military personnel and make them resolute in dealing with the menace of banditry, as the mode of operation and rule of engagement will be scaled up accordingly. Such an order will officially bring the activities of bandits and their sponsors within the purview of the Terrorism Prevention Act, and any persons associated with such groups can then be legally prosecuted and sentenced to penalties specified in the Act. Declaration of all bandits as terrorists may also encourage other countries to do same and help create a global consensus around dealing with transnational factors that feeds the domestic activities of such prescribed organizations and individuals.
Well, welcome back. So let's just put this across. Now, yesterday on the floor of the House, the honorable gentleman, you get to see them soon, did talk about the president naming those who he say are the sponsors of this terrorist. That's part of the one we were supposed to bring to you, but they're here anyways to talk about it. Honorable Benny Bakpa is a member representing Ethiop Federal Constituency. He joins us from our studios in Abuja. We also have Amasajo, former Commissioner for Information in Adamawa State, both of them. Gentlemen, good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today.
Yeah, good morning. How are you, my dear brother?
Well, we're doing good here. So, okay, well, let's start off with you, Honorable Bakpa. I'm sure you'll get to see him soon. That particular, so he's to set the scene in terms of what transpired. So, you've heard those comments concerning how these things are playing themselves out, and the request by the House, which a member did speak about. Is that, how would you situate these circumstances at the moment?
Well, thank you very much. I think I am very passionate about issues that have to do with security, and I will tell you why. Like you said in your earlier analysis, unless we get security right, we would not get every other thing right. We would not get our economy right. We would not get our democracy right, because the electoral system is premised on the fact that people are safe enough to go out and vote. So getting control on the security situation is key to getting control on whatever we're doing. And unfortunately for us, and this is where it really matters most for me, unfortunately for us, when non-state actors now break the monopoly of the state for control of instrument of coercion and instrument of violence, it becomes a very difficult situation for our country. And this is what we're facing. I have listened to the president. It's saying that some highly placed persons are behind what is happening. It's not new to very, very many of us. I don't know if you noticed that there was a video that was trending quite some time ago on the social media of bandits who were celebrating whatever it was they were celebrating. There were three categories of people there. I could identify them very clearly. One group had military fatigue, and they were carrying guns and they were shooting in the air. One group was in mufti, but looking very wretched and hopeless, kind of. Then another group had people who were neatly dressed with embroidered agbada, and some of them with neatly ironed cloth. That is the situation we are in. That is the interpretation of the situation we are in. Those who are in military fatigue carrying guns are the real combatants. Those who are looking wretched and hopeless, they are the informants. They live with us. They perform certain menial jobs within our communities, but they are the intelligence wing of the system. And then those you see with neatly embroidered agbada and looking very good, and they are either the godfathers or the representative of the godfathers. They are the ones that facilitate funding, laundering of money, provision of supplies. So we already have, they already have a nexus within themselves. And they are expanding that nexus, to make terror itself a vocation in this country. And to that extent, I think beyond just saying we identify this, we expect that the system should, we must commend the government if they identify some of the sponsors of these activities, but we expect them to go further to say A, B, and C are the sponsors, and this is the evidence we have, and we're taking them to court because it's the court that will finally pronounce them guilty of what we're accusing them of doing. That is on one side. On the other side, the president also spoke about
bring in Honorable Bakwa at this time to just give us that perspective of what transpired yesterday on the floor of the House. So, Honorable Bakwa, good morning, and thank you for joining us.
The one on the floor of the House.
Hold on a minute, hold on. Honorable Bakwa, so tell us, what transpired yesterday?
Hello?
Okay, I'm getting conflicting information. Okay, Mr. Sajo, please go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So what I am saying is that the president spoke about mitigating those factors or eliminating those factors that make the insecurity or the terrorism activities or the insurgency or the banditry activities very lucrative. And one of those things is that, honestly, we must return, our humanity to ourselves. We must begin to be compassionate to ourselves. So many people are hopeless and despondent, and some are growing up as vagrants without family background, without family love, without family empathy, without family sympathy.
Right, Mr. Sajo.
And so they grow up.
We'll get more of this in just a moment, so we'll just highlight some matters, and then we'll be back. So don't go away.
Day address, where he clearly stated that separatists were being funded by a serving member of the National Assembly. Representative Benny Bakba wants the president to mention a name.
Mr. Speaker, it will amaze you what I face in the hands of Ghanaian officials. I got there, they kept me for about 4 hours that they're trying to confirm something. I stayed at the airport for 4 hours, missed the wedding that I went there for, and at the end of the day, one of them walked up to me and said, "Sir, we are sorry, because there's an announcement in Nigeria that a member of parliament is sponsoring terrorism. We are put on red alert to ensure that no member of parliament from Nigeria come here to hide or to cause trouble."
In the meantime, a bill to regulate and capture the biodata of food vendors in Nigeria has scaled second reading in the House of Representatives. Sponsor of the bill, Abubakar Yunusa, says it will make for easy traceability of food poisoning, mishandling cases, and will help the country in the area of food security. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
All right, so you've heard those were some of the perspectives of Honorable Ben Ibakwa on the floor yesterday. Well, we do have him now, so he can just tell us what actually transpired. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today. I'm saying that for the second or third time. So could you go ahead and put it in perspective for us? On the floor of the House, you were speaking about referring to the president's comments concerning those who are sponsoring terrorism. Tell us about that.
I still cannot hear it.
Oh, dear. Okay. We'll address this and ensure that he does hear us and puts his perspective across. But, the thing is, Honorable Mr. Sajo can hear us, and Mr. Bagba can't in the same studio. I mean, sometimes you wonder how these things happen. But, yeah, he's there to give us that perspective. But, Mr. Sajo, can you hear us now, Honorable Bagba?
No. Yes. I can hear. I'm here. Okay. Yeah, then it's fine.
At least he can hear you now.
You still can't hear it? Okay, well,
if Shambale can hear me.
I can hear you perfectly, but can you hear me?
I can hear.
It's gone off again.
Okay, if you can hear me, just go ahead and tell us about the circumstance and the point you were making yesterday on the floor of the House.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Shambale, and your crew there. Well, the point I was trying to make, first, I want Nigerians to know that a working parliament is not that parliament that is dagger-drawn with the executive arm of government. We are partners in progress for the interests of the country. And that is why the parliament has shown a lot of cooperation with the executive, which Mr. President attested to in his October 1st broadcast. But for the fact that we are cooperating doesn't mean that we should be the whooping boys at all times. Nobody seems to remember the fact that the leadership of the National Assembly, especially the House of Reps where I belong, has shown a lot of interest when it comes to striking lecturers, striking doctors. They go out of their way, which is not supposed to be their responsibilities. We set up our own COVID team. We donated when it was COVID times, our salaries for some time. But every time the executive seem to be maligning the parliament, as if one arm of government is more superior than the other. So that's why when Mr. President said one of us, a serving member of the National Assembly, is sponsoring terrorism, because IPOB, whatever anybody wants to talk about it, in the eye of the law, as it is in Nigeria today, because of the fact that the government has gone to court to prescribe it and target a terrorist organization, is a terrorist organization. And for Mr. President to go on national and international television to say that one of us, it means that 469 members are being accused of sponsoring terrorism. And that is why, and I had my personal experience because of that broadcast. That's why I brought it up under matter of privilege to tell the House that in the spirit of cooperation, yes, we have a lot of issues in Nigeria that we don't want to overheat the polity, but ordinarily we are entitled to certain provision of the Constitution, Section 88 and 89, to invite so that possibly Mr. President can tell us what actually happened, why he has to name, why he's afraid to name whoever is sponsoring terrorism. Because if UAE, United Arab Emirates, is able to name Nigerians that are sponsoring, over the years we'll be hearing, we know the sponsor for Boko Haram, and not to date, nobody has been named. So that's why I brought the issue that they should meet him so that he can name the person, prosecute the person, convict the person, and shame the person. Because the right thing to do as the father of the nation is to name whoever is bringing division to the country. Is to name whoever is bringing the country's name to the mud. Is to name whoever is responsible for what we are facing as a nation, that carrying the Nigerian passport has become a crime all over the world. So that that person or the group of persons can actually be shamed and dealt with according to the law. We have we have the Terrorism Act in force, and anybody that is funding terrorism should be prosecuted along with that act.
Now, given one wonders, is the feeling the same with your colleagues across party lines, because they couldn't debate it owing to the nature and the processes that you relied on when you brought the matter up on the floor?
Yes, everybody definitely will, they felt the same way, because if you are accusing, for instance, you have 2 or 3 of you in the studio, and somebody saying one of you, somebody from here stole, it's everybody. So the feeling is the same, but I choose, again, in my wisdom, I feel it's quite contentious, and it's something that I wouldn't want it to go into debate, because when it goes to debate, frayed names, my colleagues will definitely have opportunity to vent their anger. But I just want to bring it to the House so that Mr. Speaker and the leadership can actually go and do the needful without really heating up the polity. I quite understand that we have a lot going on. The truth is this: the parliament, I know parliament all over the world are not so loved, but this Nigeria parliament has shown a lot of cooperation. They've shown a lot of complementary efforts to the executive. And I think we should be given pride of place and respect, because a situation where there was a time there's this criticism, a video of the Senate president say that whatever the president brings, I will approve. And Mr. Speaker, on our side, has taken a lot of blame, a lot of bullets, a lot of criticism for what he ought not to take for, because all they are doing is to ensure that there's stability in the polity. And every time the parliament seems to be the whooping child, everybody come, anti-corruption agency is the parliament, even the executive that we seem, the head of the executive that we are working with to ensure that the country runs smooth in the heat of these issues that we're having, they seem not to agree with us and respect that we're an arm of government, and every arm of government deserves equal respect in line with the principle of separation of powers.
Could it be a call, Honorable, could it be a call on the part of the President for an introspection in the National Assembly? Maybe there is a system with which the National Assembly can look inwards and say, hey, we have been accused. We all have been accused that one of us is there a system that could achieve that? Do you think it's a call for an introspection by members of the National Assembly, either or 2 of the chambers?
Well, we must agree that, like I said, separation of powers. The power of investigation is not with us. Yes, we have the power of investigation as enshrined in the relevant sections 88, 89. But when it comes to issues like this, the executive arm of government have a lot of instruments at their disposal. Nobody is saying that we don't have immunity. Our immunity is confined to the hollow chambers and the precinct of the National Assembly. So if they find anything, we're not saying that they should not investigate. They should go ahead and investigate. We don't know. We don't have the instrument. We're not talking about something that we can just look into. They have the DSS. They have the police. They have so many instruments at the disposal of the executive arm of government. So I believe it's their responsibility to do the investigation, thorough one, bring whoever they find that the prima facie case against, take the person to court, and if you are able to convict the person, then we will have succeeded in shaming the person, because a good father should not hide the child that is doing what is wrong. A good father should bring the child, name the child, shame the child, so that other ones will learn from it. So I don't think it's our responsibility. We don't have that. We don't have the instrument. We don't have the capacity to do it. Let the executive do it. Name the person and then prosecute the person. And if you are able to convict the person, that is when you have succeeded in shaming the person. But as it is now, that over these years, the country has not been able to mention the sponsors of Boko Haram. Not too long ago, the Senate and the House of Reps have to come via emotion, begging Mr. President to now name the bandit terrorism. But when it comes to the issue of the IPOB, it was a speedy activity. So, these are some of the issues that are bringing about agitation when the same law don't seem to apply to everybody. So I think they have the powers, they have the instrument, they have the wherewithal to go and do what they have to do. Nobody is disturbing them.
All right, Mr. Sajo, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I look at it beyond just the fact that our respected leadership has been accused of something that is wrong. But I look at it, from the perspective of the fact that already there is a serious disconnect and mistrust between the leadership of the country and the citizens. And this trust deficit is further eroded when you begin to accuse leadership of being behind some of the wars that the citizens are facing. Remember that some time ago we said there was Boko Haram in government. And at that period of time, everybody was beginning to feel, what is happening? Who actually is going to protect me? If the people that I reposit the responsibility for my protection are also seen as part of the problem I'm facing. There are, unarguably, there are some rogue elements within the security agencies that have been arrested of recent and have been exposed, thereby also eroding the confidence the people have in institutions that are supposed to protect them. So when you accuse the National Assembly or a member of the National Assembly of being part of sponsors of whatever difficulties people are facing as a result of the insecurity that is taking place in the country, I look at it beyond just individuals, but I look at it, from the perspective of the fact that we're eroding, a huge confidence that the people are supposed to repose in their leadership as their protectors, ultimately, by saying, look, your protectors are also your tormentors, and that is key. So we need to restore trust deficit. Like my honorable brother here said, if instead of saying one of them making all the 400 and something members, accused in the eyes of every one of us until the very person that is responsible is exposed, we should have exposed the person so that the remaining 380 something, will still look at them with the credibility that we have always looked at them. And I think I'm really worried about the erosion of trust and confidence between us and the people that lead us.
Well, just a quick one, Mr. Sajo. What, in your opinion, could be the reason for which the president made that statement in that speech? In one breath, he mentioned two specific individuals, perhaps because, those ones have been arrested. But in this particular instance, he just gave a blanket comment. In your opinion, what do you think the intention is?
I believe very sincerely that Mr. President just threw that statement as a prelude to engaging the leadership of the National Assembly before any action is taken. And I think he must have done it out of respect for the leadership of the National Assembly, trying to make sure that the leadership of the National Assembly that my honorable brother here said has given him so much support and cooperation is not undermined in the process of him taking action against one of their own. Don't forget that the leadership of the National Assembly, whether it is Senate or House of Reps, are not overloads in those chambers, but they are first among equal, and that they have a responsibility for each and every one of their members as an equal. So I believe Mr. President is just trying to first engage the leadership of the National Assembly with the facts available to him, and then seek cooperation in whatever actions he's going to take. I believe that is the purpose from my own perspective. But I also reiterate the fact that in the larger picture is that we, the citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, are already, getting agitated because we believe very sincerely that our leaders should be like Caesar's wives. They must be above board. And if our leaders are found not to be above board, it erodes our confidence in their capacity to provide us the guidance that we need. And that is the bigger picture.
So when we return, perhaps we'll find out how do we give unto Caesar what is Caesar. Join us again.
Thanks for staying with us. Honorable, I'll ask you the same question I asked Mr. Sajo earlier. The speech contained that particular statement without mentioning any specific name. In your opinion, what could the intention be?
Well, for me, as an insider and as a member of parliament, I believe it's just one of those ways of trying to discredit the parliament and, like our daddy here said, it's to erode the confidence. You remember that the House of Reps, in particular, had to come up with what we call the Green Chambers magazine, so that we can be talking our own stories. There were a lot of insinuation, a lot of fake news, a lot of assumption against the National Assembly. And the people talking about us don't really know what we're doing. So that's why the leadership, in their wisdom, decided to come up with our own quarterly magazine where we have to display our activities, including projects, what we're doing, the bills. So we've always been the whipping child, but I think it is time all arms of government respect their boundaries, know their rules, and perform their. So for me, I think Mr. President just want to, in their usual way, put the blame on us because he has all it takes. I remember there was a time a serving senator was arrested and charged to court. Nobody fought him. Nobody argued because that is his responsibility. He has the power of prosecution. And we've had opportunities to meet him. We were with him not too long ago before we went on annual vacation in the villa. So he can as well call the leadership and tell the leadership. He doesn't wait for October 1st, which is a broadcast that is monitored all over the world. I saw it on CNN, I saw it on BBC. And what kind of impression are you giving to the institution? You leave Nigeria, and I used to be a very proud, I leave this country each time I travel out, and I tell them I'm a member of parliament in Nigeria. But now you are telling them one of us is sponsoring terrorism. And when you enter, if you carry the green passport, and they say your occupation or whatever you're doing, you said you are a member of parliament, you are a prime suspect. And I just gave a little insight into my personal experience, even here at the back door. So I think it's just one of those ways they've been doing it. ICPC, everybody wants to do their whatever collection information data they have, they brandish it and they say the National Assembly. So everybody, and they've been able to sow that into the minds of the populace, the masses. So everybody sees, the moment you say, oh, you're a member of the House of Representatives or you're a senator, oh, there's this local balance, now they chop our money. That is the kind of thing that we're facing as representative of people. The truth is this, the task of representation is very, very huge in Nigeria because the expectations are quite high. So when you're doing the bit you can do, I think people should appreciate it. And it's worse when another arm of government, who is supposed to be partners, is trying to just mess the whole system up with that kind of statement. So I disagree that Mr. President does not know what he was doing. It's intentional to berate the House and the,
you also
National
heard,
Assembly and all.
Yeah, you also heard Mr. Sajo say earlier that it's popular knowledge, so to speak, that many people believe that the sponsors of terrorism or acts of illegality in the country, fueling insecurity, they are not unknown to many people in top positions in government. You would recall a governor saying that, look, we know the people who fomented some of this trouble. Perhaps that is part of the allusion. So given that, is it, in your opinion, that the laws are weak or the enforcement of the law is weak in order to bring these people to book?
One thing is this, the laws are not weak. It is the enforcement. Why is the enforcement weak? Because the law seems to be selective in terms of operation. When you know the people and you refuse to go, and in another swipe, you don't even know the people and you are gone, it makes it difficult. We must have our laws made for everybody. Everybody in Nigeria is supposed to subject to any law made by this country. But the operators, the executive arm of government have intentionally refused to. They have divided, and that is why you see more division coming in this country, because it is unfair. The reason for agitation is marginalization, not being carried out, non-inclusiveness. And when you see a situation applied to A and it's not applying to B, it becomes difficult. So for me, the laws are not weak. It's the operation and the operators that are weak.
If then that is the situation, is there anything that the National Assembly, the legislature can do to compel enforcement of the law? Because there is no point making the laws if those laws are not going to have teeth.
My brother, I am just telling you here that we are running a constitutional democracy. And the Constitution gave every arm of government their roles. The National Assembly or the legislature can only make laws, and after making it, it's left for the executive to implement. And if they are not implementing, that is why, again, I keep telling Nigerians, don't leave the entire Nigeria and the life of Nigeria in the hands of 469 members of the National Assembly. There are times you should take ownership of the country. You should speak out when you see that the executive, when you see that the National Assembly is not doing what they ought to do. Speak out. When the executive is not doing what they're supposed to do, speak out. The world is now a global village. The social media has helped us. Yes, I have my issue with the application of some persons and how they use the social media, but I think it's one instrument that can really help to galvanize advocacy for what the people believe in. We can only do our bit as lawmakers, and the responsibilities are clear: lawmaking, oversight, and representation. And once you have done that, any other thing is left for the people and the executive to implement. So we can't do beyond what the Constitution has given to us.
Mr. Sajo,
which is one of the reasons why I am unhappy with what is happening.
All right. Well, Mr. Sajo, from what experience Honorable Ibakwa has expressed, personal experience at that, that, for instance, the parliament in Ghana is on red alert. That could also be the experience or the position of many other, countries in the world, on the back of the president's statement that a member of the National Assembly, one out of 469 members of the National Assembly, is fueling terrorism in the country. Is there any way to reverse that impact? Because without the National Assembly in our country, definitely this kind of statement would demoralize them to one extent. Is there a way, in your opinion, that this impact can be reversed or at least mitigated?
Yeah, I think it's very, 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 very simple. To be very honest, for us to get to mitigate what the impact is, not only on the parliamentarians, I think it's on every Nigerian. If your leaders are themselves rogue, but what are you? So to mitigate that kind of a thing is that the person the president believed was responsible should be named, should be taken to court, prosecuted, and a verdict delivered by a competent court of law, so that we would be in a position to say, look, this is the person, is not the institution, is not the other 468 other members. No, but it's this particular person. And I think that is the best way to go about it. Let me also tell you that, we need to be very, very conscious of the fact that part of the crisis we are facing in this country has to do with delay in dispensing justice to people who commit offenses. When you dilly-dally about an issue that has to do with justice and enforcement of the law, you are delaying quite a number of things. And like I said earlier, I'm repeating it, you are eroding confidence in the whole system. I think the best thing to do now is to say, is Honorable A, B, C, D, or Distinguished Senator C, D, E, F, and that this is what we have found about him, and then he's going to appear in court tomorrow, and then let the judiciary also speedily take actions, and so we exit this situation so we can move forward. Otherwise, like my honorable brother said, each one of them, as far as the public is concerned and as far as the world is concerned, each one of them is a potential sponsor of terrorist activities until the very person that does it is exposed. And so this is where we are. I think expose the person responsible, take all legal matters against the person. That can mitigate the situation. But that does not mean that we will be entirely free. Like I said, this is an accumulation of accusations right from before this government up to this government, where we keep saying that there are people who are sponsoring certain criminal activities in the government, within the hierarchies of security agencies, within the hierarchies of government offices, now within our parliament. I think we are completely eroding confidence in our governance structures. So what are we talking about? I think we should go beyond saying there are this, there are that, to naming the people, using legal means to extract a redress from the situation from those people. And once we are able to do that, we would restore some modicum of confidence in the system. One, we will restore confidence in the fact that the system is up and alive and can protect the people. Yeah. And two, we would be able to say the people that, among the people that we repose confidence in, there are some of them that have some rogue tendencies and that we are eliminating them one after the other. It's key. Restoring confidence in the people is key.
Well, Mr. Sajo, just one thing that I'd like you to quickly respond to, which is something that Honorable said earlier, about the fact that the executive has been kind of selective in enforcing the law sometimes. If you agree with him, what then could you be the problem? What sentiment could be at play that makes it look like the certain laws apply to certain people and it doesn't apply to certain people?
I think these are, with due respect to all our leadership in this country and all of us that are members of the ruling elite, I think this is begging the question. This is diverting attention from the real issues. I think the real divisions we have in this country, the people, you know, the divisions within the application of the law in this country is the division between those that are high and mighty, like my brother, the honorable here, who can be mentioned in hiding that he is a sponsor of terrorism, but nobody will know whether he is the one or his colleagues or any other person, and the ordinary people, the poor people in the country, people who do not have anybody to plead their cases at the top. You know, a person steals a goat. Before you say Chamberlain or Channels TV, the guy is prosecuted, a judgment is passed, and the guy goes to prison. Then another person, you know, steals billions of naira, and the case takes about 10, 15, 20 years. You know, ordinary the criminals, petty criminals, or even the bandits and that are carrying guns and coming to shoot people and kidnap people, when they are caught, the swift action may be taken against them, but their sponsors, their godfathers, the big guns are always shielded. You know, they are shielded. So the real division we have in this country is between those that have proper means, those that have power, and those of us that do not have power, do not have means. And so the law is applied differently. But we in the elite will want to befuddle the minds of the people by saying it is one section against the other, it's one tribe against the other, it's one religion against the other. I think Nigerians should wake up to the fact that there are only two tribes in this country: the rich and powerful tribe, and the poor and despondent tribe. And it is the poor and despondent tribe that everybody,
pardon me, we're winding down now.
Discriminate against.
Right, we're winding down. Let me ask Honorable Ibakwa in our concluding moments. Should we, because I do remember that some time ago on the floor of the Senate, one of the senators who he used to be a top police officer during his time, during former President Obasanjo's time, said to his colleagues right there on the floor that he's surprised at some of the people who are sitting down there with him as senators, because he knows that he has case files, he knows what they have done, the kind of records they have, criminal records, as a matter of fact. And then we have seen former servicemen accuse members of executive arm of government of funding terrorism, having been interviewed, as they said at the time. And then this particular comments from the president. Should the House, or should we take a step back and say, wait a minute, it's not the first, second, or third time that persons in government are being accused of having links with terrorism, with crime, and such vices. Yet, these are people who were cleared by security to occupy those positions. Shouldn't perhaps a step be taken back and say, wait a minute, it looks as if we're not getting something right here? How is it ever that any such accusation could even be mentioned against anyone in government who are supposed to be above board? How about that?
Well, the process, Nigeria, I agree. I wouldn't say I exonerate myself. We are slaves to political party. They say party is supreme. And there seems to be some level of infiltration during this screening where people are not properly looked at, because I don't see why somebody who have that kind of record be cleared to contest election and sit to decide the fate, welfare, which is primary responsibility of government, of the people, because that person definitely is not one. But let me remind you of something. As a House, I remember the House of Representatives, led by dear Speaker, who has been very bipartisan, organized a week-long security summit. And at the end of the summit, they came up with resolutions which were submitted to Mr. President. And how far have they gone with the implementation? So I think the whole thing boils down to the executive arm of government. It is not the responsibility of Parliament to screen people and get them cleared for the roles that they are playing presently. We still need to tell them. Like I said before, the laws are not weak, the operations and the applications are weak. So that's just what I have to say about that.
At that point, Honorable Ben Ibakwa and Mr. Ahmed Sajo, thank you very much, both of you, for your time today.
Thank you very much. We're grateful. God bless you all.
Thank you. Well, back in a moment, we'll turn attention to security, but in the Southeast. They had a meeting. We'll talk about that when we return.
The meeting condemned the sit-at-home orders, which are mostly issued by our people in diaspora who do not feel the pains. In view of the information, the meeting resolved that governors and all the people of the Southeast do everything within the law to ensure that there is no further sit-at-home in the Southeast and that people are allowed to freely move about in the zone. The meeting received the committee report on various matters affecting the Southeast, especially on the issue of security and marginalization of the Southeast people, and resolved to study the reports from the Ohanese worldwide for immediate implementation and engagement with the federal government for amicable settlement of all issues agitating the minds of our people, especially the youths.
All right, welcome back. Well, yes, we do have His Excellency Dave Umahi, Chairman of Southeast Governors Forum and Governor of Ebonyi State, joining us on the program today. Good morning, Your Excellency. Thank you for joining us on the program today. Now, yeah, for the umpteenth time, the forum has spoken about security in the Southeast. Yet, you have some of these matters just, it just seems to not go away. Why does it appear intractable addressing the challenges concerning security in the Southeast?
Well, I don't think that the security of Southeast is totally different from what is happening in other places in Nigeria. But in a way, I don't think it's impossible to address the challenges. It's a bit complicated.
So does the forum understand the complications and how are they addressing it?
Yeah, the first is the psyche of our people. Over time, there have been these issues of marginalization, the region not being treated equally with, other regions. And then, some people now decided to capitalize on that. At the initial time, it was an issue of, we have been marginalized. And then a lot of people keyed into that. Then along the line, it developed into violence. And then later, the same agitation has been hijacked, by, criminals, bandits and kidnappers. So that's why I say it's a bit complicated.
I can ask you, Your Excellency, who are the people that Southeast governors have been able to identify as behind these heinous acts? You have referenced the fact that they are bandits and terrorists and all of that, and some would say that's escapist. It's only fair to just say, okay, those are the people that have been fomenting this trouble all over the nation. But speaking specifically for the Southeast, who are the people that are behind these heinous acts, and what could one say is the reason? What do they want?
Well, you see, at the beginning where we have the IPOP saying their agitation, they're agitating for the creation of Biafra, and their reason is that, we are being marginalized. And then a lot of people kidding. If anybody has differences, with the center, the person becomes a supporter of IPOP. If you sort anything, at the federal level, and you fail to get it, you become a supporter of IPOP. Those in diaspora that went for greener pastures and they failed to, get such, they will become very bitter with the Nigerian society. And so the followers, kept, growing. And then the issue of herdsmen came up. And there were a couple of killings in Southeast. And the people were a bit helpless and felt the governors were not protecting them. You see, the governors were protecting them, but the governors, swore oath under the Constitution. And we're doing a lot of things that we're not going to be saying in public, but we did quite a lot to ensure that that there is peace between the herdsmen and our farmers. But that's not the way some people that were aggrieved wanted us to go. But that's the way we should go. If you recall what is happening elsewhere between the herdsmen and the farmers, you will see that the governors of Southeast really did well. So then came up the IPOB with ESN, which is the militant aspect of the IPOB. And then they started to issue orders of threats. If you do this, we will do this, and all kind of stuff. And so along the line, the whole exercise is being hijacked. In Southeast, you no longer have kidnappers, cultists. Everyone that, does one criminality or the other claims to be IPOB. And also, some politicians, from what we learned, also capitalized on that and began to also import killers from outside Southeast, to advance their political interest, like what we are seeing in Anambra State from the accounts of yesterday. I don't have details. And so these are, the situations we found ourselves.
All right, but Your Excellency, there are those who are of the opinion that the Southeast governors actually have to take a huge part of responsibility as to how this has festered, because they think when this was at what they described as the elementary stage, that the authorities there could have seen these loopholes before it then graduated to the directive to sit at home, the formation of certain security networks up until when politicians now started importing people to come into those areas and begin to carry out some of these things. So they thought what the governors are doing now, they should have done a long time ago.
Yeah, but I don't know what the governors of Southeast are doing now that they didn't do before. You see, some uninformed elements, felt that the only way to solve the problem between us and herdsmen, was to ask them to leave Southeast. But that is very unnational, because our people also live in the north, they also live in the west. And so we had to mediate to ensure that we set up a kind of committees that involves these herdsmen and our farmers. And in many cases, we triumphed. But you must also know that most of these killer herdsmen came from outside. And we'll be shouting it at the national level and we'll be shouting it at the state level. So there's nothing we are doing now that we didn't do. But remember that the governors, the attempts they made, to also checkmate some of these things, because of the psyche of our people being brainwashed, I can use that, believing that someone is fighting for them. We didn't really have the support of the masses because they have been indoctrinated, they have been misinformed. But now the situation is changing because they are beginning to say, look, if you are fighting for us, why are you killing us? Even if you are not the one killing us, by your words, by your broadcast, you've made ways for us to be killed. And we no longer will tolerate that.
You referenced the youth earlier, and even now that you have spoken, and it's a little bit fuddling, Your Excellency, that while these things are going, as you said earlier, all these killer herdsmen and all those things, they aren't happy, they aren't as strong anymore as these other issues that are from within the Southeast itself. It only begs one question as to how significantly, how strongly, how persuasively the leadership, the elite, the political class in the Southeast are carrying the people along in order for them to have a unity of purpose.
I don't understand what you're exactly driving at.
Okay, the point I'm trying to make, Your Excellency, the point I'm trying to make is, generally, much of the insecurity that is going on now, from what you have said, they are happening from within the Southeast by members of the Southeast. So I'm just wondering if there is anything the political class is doing, the elite in the Southeast is doing, to ensure a carry along such that everyone can sheath their swords and work for the peace and progress of the Southeast and Nigeria in general.
Yeah, about 2 months back, we had very extensive meeting, with our larger stakeholders in Southeast and with Ohaneze, and we asked Ohaneze to drive, a number of committees, committee on security, committee on marginalization, committee on industrialization, committee on youth development, and they did. Just yesterday, they submitted their report to us, which we're going to escalate to our stakeholders to study, and then we now come up with, means and ways to implement them. But don't forget that the NSAS gave us also the opportunities in Southeast, and we have organized a number of our youths, in conferences, and then we have set up a number of empowerment programs, for the youths. On the issue of carrying the people along, we started our governors' meeting in Southeast, with calling the stakeholders to join us. I think of late other regions have emulated that. So we've done everything possible to carry everybody along, and the clergy, very important people in this project, because our people tend to believe them, when they mount the pulpits and talk to the people. So we've been carrying them along. But we are also talking to them that, let people set aside, personal differences, set aside, bitterness, if there are bitterness against the federal government, against the governors, against, one another, because these are part of what, is influencing, negative comments against, the governors or the federal government. These are the issues.
Well, definitely very big issues, because you also recall an interview conducted with Senator Baribe, which some of them made the headlines this morning, that there are more than 30 separatist groups in the Southeast. Do you agree with him?
Well, he's talking from the point of his information, but, as a governor, I don't see that. Yes, the separatist groups, we know of IPOB, we know of, MAZOP, but MAZOP, has never been violent, for sure. And they're approachable, and they tend to reason with us. But these other people, the IPOB, their command is never in the country. And every one of them stays out and then dishes out messages of bitterness and messages of threat and fear and killings. And they are not here with us to feel the pain. So these are just the two groups I can talk about. But I fear that if IPOB does not fail to stop and call their people to order and to stop these threats and the killings and all the stuff, that other groups will rise up to counter it. But there's no way Southeast will be grounded. There's no way Southeast will be sitting at home while other part of the country, will be doing businesses. And whereas we are the people that should actually be moving, because we earn our living by moving.
So how is it that those persons who you described as maybe fifth columnists, how are the people listening to them and not listening to the elected officials? We can't understand it.
Well, you've listened to their messages, and the messages that they dish out, they are not the kind of things that elected governors will implement. No elected governor, we come and say, this set of people for so reason, they must leave Southeast. There are good people everywhere, there are bad people everywhere. And so when you play on the psyche of the people, when you play on the issue of marginalization, the people tend to, agree with them. They tend to, believe in them. But most people that are informed, like all our people in the North, they are not in support of them. All our people in the West, they are not in support of them. They may have issues of saying, look, we should be treated equally. We should be given opportunities like other regions. But to ask us to start killing ourselves or start killing our visitors, start killing those who have been with us for a very long time, they are not in support of that. The majority of our people are not in support of that. But criminality is criminality, and a criminal is a criminal, always looking for opportunity. And this is the fact. And why it tends to be as if they have support is because the only way bad will continue to thrive when good people keep quiet. Why are the good people keeping quiet? Because they're afraid of isolated killings, because they don't have the police, the security people staying in their houses. And so if they talk and talk publicly, these evil people will go and isolate them and kill them. And that's why it appears that you don't have a lot of voices condemning what they're doing.
So that then suggests that there's a failing or loophole on the part of the police authorities and even the governors, because governors are chief security officers of the state, to secure the lives of those people. So if that were the case, that's a big challenge that the governors and security and police have to address, isn't that?
You see, the point is that information is very powerful. And when you want to solve a problem, you don't create another one. For example, when this thing started happening in Imo State, and the governor of Imo State, Governor Hope, rose up to the challenges. It happened in Ebonyi State. I rose up to the challenge. It is the same people that started shouting and they labeled them unknown gunmen. People even suggested they were reported from us. I said, no, we are chief security officers, in our various states, and we understand what is happening. We know that it's our people that are killing our people. And they started killing, security men. They started burning houses. They started, stopping people from moving freely. And we started shouting, and they say, oh, we are importing security men to kill. And again, these policemen we are talking about, these people were killed in their duty post. These people were killed in their police, offices, and their police post, police offices burned, and they got demoralized. Our people didn't really rise up to condemn that. And don't forget also that security is the job of everybody. There's no way police or army or anybody can totally police Southeast. It is the willingness of the people that have, are risen now to say no, enough is enough, that we need to secure Southeast. And with their support, we are going to secure Southeast.
So are you now satisfied with the deployment of police and security agencies across the Southeast, your state inclusive?
Well, not at all. These are issues we want to also address with the security chiefs. The deployment is so lean, but I pity them very highly. Look at insecurity in the north also, in the west also. So the number of security men we have in this country is so poor. In Germany, I think every 6 people you see, 1 person is a security, personnel. And that's why crime rate in Germany is very low. In New York, there are also a lot of crime happening there, but the truth remains that the moment this thing happens, the perpetrators are fished out and, to face the law. So 2 things, the deployment, not enough, yes, but we do not blame the federal government because generally we have, very low number of security people in this country. It's also challenges of finances. And then you now think about the morals of the security people in Southeast. Their morale is just beginning to rise because the way the number of them were killed, just not quite good at all. We owe them apologies. We owe them, support. We owe them encouragement so that they can rise up again, to protect the people.
But how do you mean you don't blame the federal government? I thought they are the ones who appoint the IGP, who in turn appoints and, reassigns commissioners of police across the states.
See, this issue of federal government, every one of us is a federal government. We all born together, for the interests of this nation. There is no way the federal government can address, all the challenges without the support and sacrifices of the people. I'm saying that if we should employ the number of police that we should have in this country to police them, the army, other security agencies, the economy of this country may not be able to carry it. And that's why we've been agitating for, state police to be less expensive because a number of issues like intelligence gathering, will be addressed and which will be less expensive. And so when I say I don't blame them, it's because of every sector of this, economy is begging for, attention. That's why I say I don't blame them.
Well, Your Excellency, on a lighter note, when you said everyone is federal government, I'm wondering, who then is state government? But the local government at that. But seriously, when that communique, that you delivered yesterday said that the Southeast governors will end the sit-at-home, the spate of sit-at-home that's been going on in the Southeast for a while, one wonders exactly how. And it's very important to find a way to carry the people along, to communicate with the people to the effect. So how will the state governments in the Southeast achieve putting an end to the sit-at-home?
Well, it's a process, and we are at that stage now. Before now, don't forget that we, in every state and in, of course, every part of this country, we have armed robbers, we have kidnappers, we have cultists. And the state government, now talking about Southeast, been able to contain them. We didn't have this kind of killings. And so if you take it backwards to say, okay, when IPOP came, and IPOP started agitation. No country that wants or a part of, let me just put it that you can never get, a nation out of the nation by the kind of hate speeches, being dished out. And then from hate speeches to threats of killings and the actual killings and the information of, militant group, And so that's where we are, and the people now started to understand, say, look, if you are fighting to protect us, why are you killing us? Because we are the ones killing ourselves. Occasionally, people are imported from outside to do these killings, but majorly, like in my state, all the people that we have caught that did the killings, all came from Southeast, none came from outside. I'm talking in particular reference to my state. And so the people are beginning to understand. And if people understand, then we will be going back to where we were in fighting criminality. And nobody is going to complain. So we will be telling all our youths everywhere in Southeast, whatever are your grievances, come, let us reason together. Even God Almighty says that you should come with your positions, you should come with your complaints, and let's reason together. So we'll be asking them, let us reason together. You can't be more Catholic than Pope. You can't shave our heads in absence. Whatever is your problems, let us understand with you. If the problem is unemployment, you have nothing doing, we are going to leave every other thing to make sure that you are empowered, And we've been empowering our youth, The only thing is that when you are in the bush, we don't have access to you. So you have to come out of the bush and they work with us to empower you. But when you say no, that you will go in the name of agitation to cause criminality, we will isolate you as a criminal. And this is where we are, and we are very serious about it. Any day anybody says sit at home, people are not sitting at home out of obedience or compliance. People are sitting at home because of fear for their lives. If you have a policeman, to everybody, nobody is going to, obey any sit at home. Nobody is going to obey that. So we are going to do what we've been doing to safeguard the lives of our people, because we've gotten the confidence of our people that these people do not mean well for us, and that you cannot have Biafra by the way they're going about it. Meanwhile, every elite in Southeast is not desirous of Biafra. We don't want Biafra. We want to be treated equally like other regions in Nigeria. So this idea of Biafra is madness, and we have said, no, we don't want Biafra. And it's because, according to our leaders, that we are not being equally treated, that gave rise to this loophole, and people began to work on our psyche, and they began to form these agitation groups. So this is what we intend to do.
Well, it turns out that the separationist groups are not just in the Southeast, they're equally in the South, and who knows where else you could hear some of these matters. And so there's a fundamental challenge that needs to be addressed by governments, such that these kind of matters, the reason, for which they come up in the first place, are addressed. That perhaps those might just become history if they are. But the forum equally referenced Ibubagu again. So what exactly is the current situation with that?
Before I say that, let me talk about other agitation groups from other regions. Let me say that I don't truly believe in those people that I don't mind being castigated, but the truth is that we are being given a push through pretentious, agitation, so that we continue to, fire on, because if we go our separate ways, the Southeast people will lose a lot. We've invested a lot in every part of this nation. And so it is not to advantage, to leave our investment and then walk away. And so we are being prompted, to, a kind of say, look, the other people that are agitating to have a nation of their own. Those people are at advantage because we've invested heavily. And the tendency is that if this thing happens, we're going to leave our investment and walk away. We did that before during the Civil War. We do not intend to do that, again. But there's nothing bad in, fighting to be recognized, in fighting to be treated like others, in fighting to have a united, equitable nation, Nigeria. We are better and we are bigger when we are together, and I believe that we will achieve that, not through hate speeches, not through insults to governors or to Mr. President. It can never come true. If I'm a governor and you are insulting me, you believe that I'm going to address, whatever, I forgot to do for you or whatever are your challenges. I will do that. But if you approach me in a civil war, you criticize me constructively, then I will be able to do that, But to insult me and castigate me and say all manner of things that are not, even the truth, there's no leader that will be happy, about that. On the issue of Ebubago, I think this Ebubago have been a vigilante, and through the act of the House of Assembly, they are turned into what our people want, and that's the regional security outfit, that we could name Ebubago. I have since passed my law. My Ebubago is functional and very helpful, working hand in hand with the security agencies. In Imo State, that has happened. In Abia, I think they are the level of, passing their law. But the vigilance, don't forget, are there, they're working. I just read on news, where these hoodlums went to kill two vigilante people in one of the states of Southeast, but the police, arrested them. So it shows that they're working. It shows that they are there to protect the people. So we have given till the end of the year that other states have not passed their law should do that, and we will all come together in a regional headquarters, which is in Enugu, to launch it. But before then, all the states are giving the go-ahead for our leaders to launch the Ebubago, outfits. They are going to also be very helpful. They have not been allowed, before now to really act, but now they are going to act with the community people and with the security agencies to protect the people. The people are desirous of being protected.
Well, I'm just wondering, Your Excellency, on that matter about, the approach of the populace to elected officials by way of insults, don't you think that there are those who do that because they don't know any better? For instance, several people will always refer to previous governments who were equally insulted, if not more, but they chose to handle it differently. And so if they the authorities reach out to certain persons differently, who knows? It might even end up winning them to their side, as opposed to just having that stance that, no, you can't have this kind of opinion. So if you do, you already will not have access. Can there be a change of approach on the part of leaders? Because they are supposed to approach things differently, I might add.
Again, Chamberlain, we are all leaders in our own rights. You are commanding, some sections of people. If you go to your chief executive, you have needs that everything being done in China, you do not agree with that. And there is no way that you can do everything right. But in trying to address that and you begin to insult your chief executive, I don't think he's going to listen to you. But if you approach him and say, look, A, B, C, D are not good, I'm sure he's going to listen to you. So I don't think it has to do with leaders. When you do not want to work, and again, they will ask me, where is the work? Ask governors about the attitude of some of our people towards work. And it's these people that believe that, the money belongs to them and they don't need to work to earn the money. And these are the people that are filled with bitterness, and these are the people that approach issues. But they are not a majority. They're not a majority. The only thing is that, bad words, incite so much and depend so much. But a lot of youth, a lot of people that approach, governance, with decorum, they have always gotten whatever then they, sought for. And so how we, be advising that hate speeches will further divide us. Hate speeches will not help to build the country. Not that they have no any other way. There's a saying in my play that bad words used to be in the mouth and you say the good one. If everybody should say it's mine, then there will be no nation Nigeria, there will be no world to live in. And so it is a question of, sometimes how you were brought up, and another one, the way you are filled with bitterness. For example, if somebody is very bitter with Dave Umahi, the governor of Ebonyi State, maybe he didn't get one thing or the other, he will carry the same bitterness against Mr. President. Why? Because they will say that Dave Umahi supports Mr. President. So that's how these things are working. The bitterness is not being on objective basis. It just most of the time on personal levels. And then, when somebody is bitter, say, why are you bitter? May not be able to even explain. But I want you to try it and ask somebody, why are you bitter? Because everyone has got a role to play in the affairs of this nation. Everyone has got a role. Everyone has something to give. And this is very important. We need patriotism to rebuild our nation. So this is my belief.
Well, Your Excellency, one of the issues anyone would raise with you about the patriotism is the trust deficit that has depleted over the years. But just before we go, you would recall that INEC has been speaking quite significantly about their uncertainties concerning the elections in Anambra State, which is a southeast state. And they are, of course, generally quoting issue of insecurity and all of that. Is there anything, first of all, what's your take on the position of INEC? And is there anything the Southeast governors can do or are doing to stave off all of the challenges that INEC is raising?
We spoke about election in Anambra State yesterday. Unfortunately, our colleague, the governor of Anambra State, was not able to come and said he was sending the deputy. We did not also see the deputy. We would have been able to evaluate, the stories we are hearing that the killings in Anambra State is, politically motivated. But on the other hand, you look at what IPOB is saying, that there should be no election in Anambra State. Two things. If there is no election and we go into a constitutional crisis, of course, the National Assembly and Mr. President are there to sort that out. But it will be a slap on the federal government because, maybe some political parties, that have seen they will not be able to win are importing people to do the killings. These were some of the reports we got yesterday, unconfirmed reports. But IPOB is positioning themselves, as the killing, agent, because they are the ones saying there will be no election. They are the ones saying if you come out, we kill you. If you be any, Nigeria plate number, we will isolate you, we kill you. So even if they are not the one killing, they have taken responsibility for the killings. And so I think that the federal government must do everything possible to show that, they are in charge and the election must hold, even if it is shifted within the limit of INEC constitutional powers, that election should hold.
Just one more thing or so before we go. When you spoke about killings and those who were apprehended being of, the same ethnic extraction, where do we place the belief or impression of Imo State Governor, who at the time said that over 70% of those who are carrying out those killings were from outside the Southeast?
I accommodated that in my, comments this morning, that occasionally we've been told that politicians also import people from outside to do the killing. So it's a mixture of, political differences and then the IPOB, own position. But I continue to say, and I tell IPOB, say, look, the matter has gone beyond you. your matter is being hijacked, but you paved the way for it to be hijacked. And so every criminal is now claiming to be IPOB and is doing the killings. And even when you say the sit at home is suspended, has it been suspended? No. And if you say that, yes, people are not complying because of fear, are they not killings in those days of sit at home? They are killings that are burning of vehicles, which shows that IPOB is not in charge, is not in command anymore, but pure criminality, which we are going to deal with. So I agree with the governor of Imo State that some people are imported to do the killings. But in my state, we don't have political killings, even though opposition may say otherwise. But from my security point of view, and of course, security agencies are there to be. So what we have had in the past has been us killing ourselves, which God has helped to stop. And we're grateful to God. So that's my position about it.
All right, then, Your Excellency Dave Umahi, Governor of Ebonyi State and Chairman Southeast Governors Forum, thank you for talking to us today on the program.
Thank you very much, Chamberlain.
All right, let's take a look at some messages coming through from you. Some emails are coming. You got the first one. Let's go.
Is the one writing this in. It says, the persistent rise in prices of commodities in Nigeria is unprecedented. Law enforcement are quite adamant about it. The common man's supper is at the receiving end. What is the government doing about this? What about price control?
Well, this is from Kenneth, who says, greetings, gentlemen. My take is that the credible way out of this morass of insecurity bedeviling our country, Nigeria, is for the president to rise above ethnic and religious sentiments and muster the political will to deal with killers, no matter who is involved. Also, the National Assembly should quickly enact and pass a bill to restructure this country in terms of the political, economic, and security architecture. God bless Nigeria.
And on tackling terrorism, Brendan says, I think Honorable Igbakwa is correct to say that the comment by the president is rather mischievous, intended to discredit another arm of government. One can remember the reaction of the presidency when the 7th minister was alleged to be a sympathizer of terrorism. Discerning Nigerians can easily see the cheap mischief. It does not resolve the issue of insecurity in the country.
Well, Adeniyi says, an AK-47 rifle costs between $700 to $800. It takes only the rich and highly connected in the society to be able to afford it. And we have thousands of them in circulation. Alongside these, you have cannons, grenades, missile launchers, etc. One doesn't need a soothsayer to tell us powerful people amongst us sponsor terrorism. I very much doubt if the government will ever unveil these people because it all comes back to them. That's the reason why they are treading with caution.
And still on the same issue, Timia Falabi says, the measures being taken by the federal government in tackling insecurity in Nigeria is, to say the least, very perfunctory and bordering mainly on rhetorics, divisive and selective tactics, as well as diplomatic cover-up. All we hear from the FG is that we know the sponsors of bandits, terrorists, and separatist groups, yet none have been arrested nor prosecuted. What happens to the over 6 trillion naira expended to fight insurgency, according to EFCC? The president's Independence Day speech on the sponsorship of separatists was merely playing to the gallery and to further leave the masses bewildered and take their attention away from the failures of the federal government to handle insecurity, which is their primary responsibility.
Okay, just one more. Mohammed says Nigerian leaders should stop playing politics and tribalism with the life of Nigerians. The president should unveil names of those sponsors irrespective of position or religion. They should stop dividing Nigerians with the nepotism system. It says Nigeria is one.
Well, so many other messages from Chuma, Prisa Nakena, Abiodun Kenneth Abiro, Don Nicholas, Olagunju Oladele, Joshua Badong.
Among several others.
Among several others. We get your mail, but we're completely out of time. Thank you so much for your time today on the program. I'm Ayo Makinde. Please stay safe.
I'm Chamberlain, so goodbye.